this evening. I do appreciate what you all do here and that you're standing in a position that you don't have to. I appreciate that. I'm compelled to come here before you with these very pressing matters. For the sake of time, I can only touch on these weighty matters here tonight. That being said, I would like you to consider the travesty that's being perpetrated upon unborn human beings in Tulsa County. According to the Oklahoma State Department of Health, 4,723 abortions took place in 2017 in Oklahoma alone. Currently, the state of Oklahoma has 4 abortion providing clinics to my knowledge, of which one is located right here in your backyard. The Tulsa Women's Clinic, with the sole business of being taken these innocent lives, even goes as far as to encourage minors to have abortions, and I quote, "Teens 17 and younger can have an abortion without parental or guardian consent by completing a judicial bypass process." And Tulsa Women's Clinic site also refers to several organizations that will apparently happily donate the money, so these minors do not even have to come up with the money to kill their unborn children. These young mothers who do not deem competent to vote in an election or to go to war to fight for this country, and yet without any parental consent, we allow them to go to a clinic and have their bodies violated and an unborn baby boy or girl murdered, the consequences of which they will have to live with for the rest of their lives. The psalmist once said in Psalms 127:3, tells children are heritage of the Lord, fruit of the womb. And these are a reward, not a punishment. Consider your own daughters could someday become their next victim if you have daughters or someone you know, and they would not have a say in what their children were doing. It's an unquestioned scientific fact that human life begins at conception. This we know. It's determined on the basis of scientific criteria of what turns an individual human being, and scientists have shown that the sperm and egg both being haploid cells, which contain only half of each of the mother's phylogenetic information, upon fusing together become a new and unique cell, which constitutes a full and complementary genetic material DNA, of all the biological and characteristics of a single and unrepeated human being. It's wonderful that science has allowed us to glimpse into these richness of God's creation. God has already revealed this in His Word before scientists ever even conceived of the unbelievable complexity of the information contained in DNA. Consider the writing of the psalmist, "For thou possessed my reins, thou hast covered me in my mother's womb. Mine eyes did see my substance, yet being unperfected. And in thy book my members were written, which in continuance are fashioned, when as yet there was none of them." We can now look at this passage through the lens of current scientific knowledge and understand that this book referred to by the psalmist is the DNA with all the information contained from conception. So that all the members, arms, legs, organs, etc., of the new baby boy or girl would continue to be fashioned, as yet there is none of them. If we were to write this out in a book, that book would be taller than the Statue of Liberty, that information. That's how much information contained in the DNA. Now, this little baby boy and girl, upon conception, will continue to develop throughout his or her life. The first handful of days, it's important to consider the baby is operating inside, yet separate from its mother, and is dividing cells rapidly. In a handful of days, the child will attach to the mother's uterus and feed from the mother and have waste taken away. The child will continue to grow, and once develop further, the child then will emerge from the mother's womb. At this point, he or she will continue to seek out nourishment from his mother. The child will continue to rely on outside help for all this necessity for several years. Some would say in this day, maybe even the 30s and 40s, some are still relying on their mothers for care. But we understand as we continue to grow, that point of conception, this individual is created as a unique person. Thus, we should hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, and that they are endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
Sir, you have 1 minute.
As representatives of the citizens here in this community, your pledge to see to the rights, as was mentioned already, to all those in your district. These children are endowed with such rights. You are the ministers of God for good for us. But if we do that which is evil, we should indeed be afraid. For you bear not the sword in vain, for you are the ministers of God, revengers, to execute wrath upon that which doeth evil. You can see that God's desire is a government. I think all of us here want government to use the sword to punish evil. Instead, has allowed the sword to enter into what should be the safest place on earth for the unborn child, the mother's womb, and instead of destroying evil and innocent human child sacrificed for the sake of the mother's idol, her work, school, figure, money, whatever else it takes first place. And this isn't considering those isolated instances which we all know that happen that are unmentionable, please. I plead tonight then, that at least here in this city, every decision will be that of the praise of the good,
Your time
And the
is
wrath
up.
of them that doeth evil, please bear not the sword, Mr. Smith. Thank you very much for listening to me. I appreciate it.
Ellen Markle.